So tonight we'll be talking with Anju Pun, our country director from Nepal, about our pathway out of the situation that's happening, the global pandemic, and how we've been affected by COVID-19 on the ground there. We are having some internet connections with Uganda, nothing new there, but if Patrick can join us, he will. And we also should be hearing from Diptesh Singh from our partner in India. So thank you again all for joining us. Slowly the room's filling up. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrea Nave and I'm the CEO of Forget Me Not Australia. We work here in Australia advocating for change, working with the government, with the general public, other social services and people to talk about the process of the paper orphan, the phenomena of paper orphans and the process of busting the orphanage myth and educating regular Australians about the harms of supporting orphans in orphanages. And part of that process, of course, is raising funds to support the work that we do overseas. We work in 3 countries. We work in Nepal, which is our flagship program out of Kathmandu, but across the whole country. We also work in India, out of New Delhi, with our partner on the ground there, Laksha Akriti Foundation. And then we also work with a partner organisation in Uganda, with a country director there, Mr. Patrick Rueza, and he looks after a fixed amount of children there, delivering educational works, healthcare and basic medical needs to keep children at home safe with their family, out of institutional care. So our mandate across all 3 countries is similar. We work for children to see that they are thriving, that they have the best opportunity to be their best as they come through their childhood free from institutional care. That's our main aim. And that's what we do every day, talking with, educating about, and working with our donors to understand how, and then making that change happen on the ground in Nepal, Uganda, and India. So I can see, just check with my producer. Everybody in that's waiting in the waiting room? Yep. We're pretty much there. There will be a few other people joining us as we go. So again, thank you all for joining us. We have some of our team from Nepal here in the audience. Thank you, Nepal team, for coming to join and listen along. It's always great to have some support. We have a couple of our directors here from Forget Me Not Australia as well, Pete Mackay with us. We have long-time supporter Trent. Thanks for joining us, Trent. And Joanne Heath has also been a long-time supporter of Forget Me Not since our inception back in 2006, actually, 7 through, all the way through until very recent years. So thank you all, everybody, for joining us. So we've titled this series of talks, Rise. Several months back, we had a conversation about how our organisation was impacted across the world, not just here in Australia, but across the world through the pandemic. And, you know, it's been hard for everybody, we understand that, but none more so than the countries where we work, where it's a privilege to be able to lock down in a larger home, to have some distance between your house members, to have some distance from the people that you live with, to have access to medical care, good, high, strong sanitary opportunities. But where we work, it doesn't happen like that. So people are often crowded together. They don't have access to those immediate needs to satisfy them. And when lockdown happens, often people have lost their income and their daily wages are cut substantially. And when they're living from hand to mouth, wages come in to feed literally for the week, and that stops. We were in a real situation struggling with people. So it wasn't so much as COVID-19 that we were so much afraid of. It was literally starvation, keeping people alive. Excuse me, so they could survive the pandemic well and beyond, and then get back on their feet. So initially through our Rise series 1 and 2, we talked about our feeding programs and what we did to help local communities have enough food in their ration boxes to keep their families alive. So a basic ration across the countries was similar with rice and legumes, oil, salt, and of course free and large quantities of water in gallon tanks so they could come into their houses with drinking water. So they didn't have to leave their houses. That progressed quite well. We teamed up with other small NGOs on the ground to help deliver some of those services to people so that our impact was increased when we banded together, all working for a common good. We were successful in various states to feed a very large number of people, and we continue to do that wherever we can. Wherever there's a need identified, we will continue to support people so they don't go hungry, really, specifically looking for vulnerabilities where we have elderly people, breastfeeding mothers, or very, very young children with only one carer in the home. So children are vulnerable. They can be asymptomatic, but they can be the link to spreading the COVID-19 sickness, as we know. So looking out for everybody, using the science to back up our work, and following what's needed on the ground approach has been our best and most successful avenues to date. So that's just a quick wrap up of where we've been so far. And tonight we want to talk to you about how we're progressing, rising up out of this turmoil that's going on. I mean, here in Australia, we know that we still have Victoria locked down with various the stage 3 restrictions coming out of play now, and looks like that will lift after the holidays that we're about to happen now in Australia. Everybody is still under a responsible state to wash their hands, keep the social distance, sanitize, and move on and learn to live with COVID-19 until a vaccination comes. And that's the same in the other countries where we're working, to varying degrees of difficulty. So tonight I'd like to introduce to you Andrew Pun. Hi, Andrew. Thanks for joining us. Andrew is our country director in Nepal, and Andrew works directly with our partner organisation, the Himalayan Innovative Society in Nepal. Andrew looks after all of our INGO operations there. And Andrew's going to share tonight with you some of the immediate works that we've been undertaking in the last month to 6 weeks, some of the difficulties and challenges that we've faced. We also have a new rescue in our transit home, some children who've come into our care during this process. And what are some of the things that she's finding there working on the ground with vulnerable and displaced children since the pandemic has struck, and what might be our immediate pathways forward as restrictions start to lift. So if you'd like to take over from there, Andrew, I welcome your words. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. Namaste, everyone. Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Here, right now, I'm in our office, Forget Me Not office in Kathmandu. And a week ago, nearly a week ago, the government has eased the lockdown, which means that for a month, we had this strict prohibitory order from the Nepal government for no movement of vehicles. Everything was in halt, except basic facilities like some of ration shops and pharmacy and hospitals. But the COVID infection, it kept increasing despite such strict prohibitory measures. And it really affected the mental health of people, especially people who are the daily wage earners, you know. It's very difficult for the people who earn daily, who open their shops, who sell vegetables, and from that earning, they are able to feed the families. So it was very difficult, and with the increasing rate of suicides in Nepal, 2,500 plus, you know, in these last 6 months of time, it was very depressing to see the situation, and listening to the stories of the families. We connect via phone calls, doing remote connection to the families and children who are together. So it was very difficult for the government also. And looking at all this scenario, an upcoming festival time, Nepal's biggest festival, Dashain, which is after a month. So there, the lockdown has been eased now, a week ago. But what I see, just yesterday, I just had a look around to the city in my scooter, and I noted that people are just rushing out of their homes, coming to the markets. There is no proper social distancing. There, people were not even using masks at such places, marketplaces. You know, it was very scary for me to go and have a look around of the city, because now the data which is shown by the government, it seems that Kathmandu is the major hub of infection rate every day rising. So every day we are listening 1,000 cases in Kathmandu district alone. So right now the official data shows 64,122 cases, COVID infection cases are there in Nepal. But the good thing is around 72% is the recovery rate also. So that is one good thing. So with these restrictions being eased, mobility being increased, but still the challenge for our team is that we cannot have our full swing operation of monitoring visits to the children and families who are all scattered in 25 districts of Nepal. So what we have been doing right now is observing the current situation and looking at the safety measures for the team itself, and also getting connected with all the children and families. So right now, as you shared, we have our ongoing food supplies to the disparate children and families because they have lost their wages, their income source. That is ongoing. But at the same time, what we realized is we need to take the opportunity of getting involved more with the local authorities, because we can't be physically there in these 70 plus municipalities, rural municipalities where the children, 217 children are there. So what we are doing is we have started connecting with these municipal officials via webinar. We just started a week ago, and educating them, these child protection officers and women development officers, about the risk and higher vulnerability of the children in these communities. So right now, COVID-19 in Nepal is doubled up because of the landslides ongoing. Right now, it's raining heavily in Kathmandu while I'm talking to you. But landslides, floods, heavy rainfall has again, preyed on the most marginalized children and families. And that means it creates higher risks of family separation, because we have just came to know that there are some children, because of the landslides, they have lost their father and mother. So now there will be orphanages, there will be traffickers who will prey on these vulnerable families. So what we are doing is our reintegration officers, our change agents officers, they are immediately tapping on these online news, which is coming via social media, and talking to these government officials about the Children's Act, about the law, and about what the National Child Rights Council in Kathmandu is asking all the 753 municipalities all over Nepal to protect children in such emergency situation. So currently, COVID-19 plus landslides plus heavy rainfall, this is really affecting our work, the lives of children and families. So the resources which we have right now, we are trying to provide cash transfers to the families so that they can at least buy the blankets, buy the clothes, or buy a roof, just to provide a tent to them. So that is what the basic thing, addressing the urgent emergency needs. That is one part we are doing. And at the same time, because we can't have this band-aid solution to the problem, we need a sustainable solution. So for that, what we are trying to do is connect with the local authorities and connect the families and the local resources, bridge that gap, and provide the available, even though the local authorities are not able to provide big resources, but whatever they have, at least the access of the families to these local resources is very important. That is one solution which we can do to empower these families, and at the same time to educate these local authorities that this is their job. It's the accountability of the system to protect the children and poor families in need. So this is what we have been doing despite the challenges. Our integration team, they are calling the families once a week. And just last week, I was so happy to hear that our reintegration officers, Prabhujan and Nirajan in Humla, which is a very far remote mountain district of Nepal. So in this particular district, there are zero COVID infection rate. So they are taking this opportunity to visit the families. There are 20 plus children, reunified children from various orphanages back to their families. So what they are doing is they are physically going with, of course, keeping mask and hand washing, keeping all these, respecting all these social distancing and prevention measures. They are meeting these families and children. And it makes us so happy to see when they send some of the pictures of the children, when they see the reintegration officers coming, they are going to their farm at the backside and trying to pluck one cucumber to give to the reintegration officer as a token of their love. That even during this situation, the reintegration officers, they are walking 4-5 hours to reach them and see them, how they are doing. Do they have enough food in their homes? Is their health good? Are they coping up with the online education if it is there? So they are trying their best to do all those things. And at the same time, our change agents team, they are also making best use of the social media right now. We are conducting webinars with the local authorities and also with young people of Nepal, who aspire to be social workers, but they lack the education about how institutions harms children, how it works in Nepal, and how they should be aware of um, uh, how they should be aware about the institutionalizing children is against their basic right to families. So in nutshell, this is what we are doing right now. And thank you for all the resources, for all the love, for all the support you are sharing from Australia and from other parts of the countries as well. And on behalf of Forget Me Not and the Himalayan Innovative Society team, I would like to say a big thank you to everybody for being together in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angie, for sharing. I know that it's been difficult work, and I know that some of our connections over these last few weeks, and we've talked about emotional well-being, not just for our beneficiaries, the mothers, fathers, grandparents, and the children themselves that we are supporting, and learning about their hardships and trying to offer good counsel to get them through, but also for your leadership in trying to support our team, keeping them together and keeping them inspired when our work has been so interrupted. It's difficult to come up with a strategy that is useful on the day, that eases hardship on the day, and it's actually something that we can work forward with and until we come through this pandemic. It's been a difficult time, I know, all around, and I thank you for your leadership for this young team that we work with in Nepal that we're so proud of. Yeah, it's been difficult. And I know that our young care leavers, people who've come through our program from 2005 and 6 onwards, the original girls, for example, of Forget Me Not, they are now young women. And they're all in lockdown, back with their families, some in shared flats and things. And I know that they too have been keeping busy, keeping their mental health high, keeping to their studies and whatnot, working through. So it's not just difficult in your work environment, it's difficult in a family environment and in your living. And we've been fortunate enough to share some wellbeing tips with some counsellors and some guidance for the team, which is really helping, I think, learning to mix up your workspace, and something that we can all take something from. Learning to keep our mental health at the pinnacle and do the best we can moving forward till we can get through the hardship and the process. Sometimes you forget there's a global pandemic, especially living here in Queensland. Things it's kind of business as usual, but I know that other parts of the country it's not so easy, and people trying to cross the borders here in Australia have their own problems and issues going on. So thanks for sharing all that. I really, really appreciate that very much. Here in Australia, what we're trying to do is raise enough funds during this difficult time to support the work that Andrew and the team are doing there. So we've worked with our budgets that exist here in Australia to shave them back as leanly as we can. So fortunately, we don't have a large rental office, or we don't have all of the overheads like other large charities do. So we're able to focus a lot of our funds directly towards the work that we do. So the funds that we're raising are directly going to the projects at the moment, and they are supporting those works directly. So families that need income for food, families that need income for medications, families that need more support, we're able to give those small amounts of money to help them help themselves through this time until we can get back to more business as usual. Some of our larger donors come to our support from the UK or from Germany, and they've been offering larger amounts of money for projects over time. And we've also been able to talk with them about the urgency of the COVID-19 effects on our projects, and they too have been very sympathetic and happy to change the way we're delivering the services. So it's been a collaborative effort for us, our funding partners, you, our generous donors who just give your monthly donation each month. We're very grateful that we've been able to utilise all of those funds and really help the most amount of people that we can. So we, of course, have had some donors, long-term donors, not be able to participate and continue with their donations because of their own family hardships. But we're very grateful for those donations to date, and also the promises that when things get better, they'll be back. So we're very grateful for our loyal donors on the ground daily supporting children. So the next thing I'd like to do is talk to you about our India project. Diptesh, are you there? Over. No, in and out. In and out. So Diptesh is having a bit of a signal problem. I can just see his name popping up, popping in and popping out. What we've been doing with Lakshya Kriti Foundation on the ground in New Delhi, we work in a couple of slum areas there. What we usually do there is offer education through the Brighter Futures Study Centre, education to several thousand children throughout the year, where they have their basic numeracy and literacy needs met through our free teacher program. Under the big metro pylon bridges in New Delhi, and also in a particular Rajghat community on the riverbank, where we've had a livelihood operation program going on there. People having an opportunity to generate their own income, so they're not so dependent on us. And we call that overall India project HELP, H-E-L-P. Health, Education, Livelihood and Possibilities. Joanne, who's with us tonight, was part of founding that program with Lakshya Kriti and Forget Me Not, and it still goes on very, very well. We focus largely on education and the way that we can support children to get that basic numeracy and literacy under their belt so that they're capable of earning. So they may not end up as university scholars, we are very aware of that, but at least they can look towards their own upliftment as they move into young adulthood. If they don't have a complete education, at least they have a basic numeracy and literacy. And while they're getting that education, we get their documents in order, birth certificates and registration documents and so forth, so that those children can then enter mainstream schooling if they have enough education, basic education behind them, and then they can move off into free schooling, into the regular schools there. And we've been pretty successful in getting children through. Our next main focus during this time, though, has been literally on our health program. So the government of India has been handing out small packages of food to people who are registered, might I say. Not all of our recipients actually have documentation, birth certificates and so forth, because they're people who live in slum communities. So some of those people have not been eligible to receive some of those packages of care. And we're very proud to be able to say that we were able to deliver for the communities we work in a very small ration pack, and then to help get some of their kitchen stocks back in order. So through large kilo rice drops, oil, salt and tea, and all of those basic human needs. And now as we've moved through the pandemic, we're starting to look more specifically at what else we can target. So we've been doing advocacy work as well with the local government about getting those people fed and not being so dependent on us, so we can start working in the gaps, in the cracks where people are missing out. And one of the areas that we've targeted or discovered is elderly people who may live alone or live with another elderly person, a very elderly couple, for example, where they can't get out. They don't have the strength and the capacity to get out and get those ration packs. They're running low on water, they're running low on all of those kinds of things. And of course, as we know, as a global family, it is the elderly that is the most vulnerable to this pandemic. So isolating those people and finding an opportunity to visit them, to bring in a nursing team, to check their temperatures, to make sure they're okay, to deliver food has been vital. And the next target audience we've had is for nursing mothers, mothers of newborns and very young children who can't get out, essentially, to make sure that they're surviving, to make sure that the nursing mothers have enough nutritional support to keep up their nursing program, to make sure that their children get through without malnourishment, and that the younger children in their family are also fed. So while we're doing all that, we've also been contributing to a community kitchen. So some of our funds have been coupled with another organisation as well as a church. So we've been able to double some of our and triple some of our impact, where we can provide larger amounts of food and then have able-bodied people come and eat and then take away packages of food back to their home. So we're looking at a multi-pronged attack to try and do the best that we can. And our main aim is to ease the daily trouble. So this is definitely not a long-term solution. We're just trying to ease the daily trouble and make it easier for people in the days and weeks ahead. As we know, and all of you could know as well, if you look on Google, you can see the numbers climbing through India. Like Nepal, it's not going down, it is only going up. And sadly, of course, the number of deaths also climb with those numbers. So, you know, we're very fortunate here in Australia. While ever we've lost several of our citizens, it's not like it like that in places like Nepal and India. Uganda has been another place that has been hit by COVID-19, but not as poorly as Nepal and India. Our India project is where we're really focusing on tonight. We're trying to raise enough funds to deliver a water tanker, a water truck, so that we can siphon water and deliver fresh water to homes, because that's really running low. Some of our communities live on the edge of a river, and that river is completely polluted. So they can't do soft green farming, and all of those soft edibles and all those things can't be farmed with that water. So the best we can do is provide clean drinking water to keep people safe, and then of course to keep hands washed. We're also buying sanitizer in bulk, and we have X's on the ground for food delivery, so people are social distancing. So it's quite a feat. Diptesh himself is located in Varanasi. For anybody who's been to India, it's quite a way to Delhi. So he's working with his key people on the ground there and trying to keep the operation up and running. I cannot tell you it's not free of challenges. It is. Anyone who's been to India knows that not a day goes by with the most simple tasks that aren't confronted with challenges. But Diptesh and his team, as tenacious as they are, seem to just keep on delivering. So we're looking to make sure that we can keep clean water and more rice as our key feature right now, and keeping those elderly and nursing mothers fed. So what I'd like to do tonight with everybody who's listening is invite to any questions that you might have. I know that our work here on the ground in Australia has been slowed somewhat because of the pandemic with events. Of course, we haven't been able to run any events for 2020, which has been concerning, and leaves our regular attendees wanting more. What we say is that, you know, forget me not, we'll do our best to keep our head above the water and be back bigger and better in 2021 once the pandemic is eased, and we can get back to having gatherings and bringing you all of our stories live. So while you think of any questions that you may have, I might move on back to Andrew to talk about the couple of rescues that we've had during this lockdown process. I know that there's been two particular rescues. One was where children were all sent home and some young boys were left alone to fend for themselves, and how the government requested our support. And then the most recent one, which has also got a few issues surrounding it, so we can't talk about too many details of that, but really about how children were sent directly home, thus proving to the government that they do have families where they could be if those families were supported. So Andrew, would you like to share a little bit more about that process and about the numbers of vulnerable children that were sent home from orphanages and how the government's viewing that currently?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Andrea. In last 2 months of time, Nepal government rescued three young boys between the age of 7 to 10, and from another orphanage, 11 young girls between the age of 6 to 12. So these children, very young children, they were in desperate situation. For example, these three young boys, their mates, their friends were all sent to their homes, to their families in remote districts, while they kept all these children earlier, saying that they have no one, they all are orphans. And government, while doing their monitoring visit during this pandemic situation, they found out that the director had ran away. The caretaker just ran away, asking these young boys to cook for themselves, wash your clothes and look after yourselves because it's Corona. I'm scared. I want to protect my family. So that's how these three young boys were remained there in that orphanage, while others had somehow managed to go back to their families. So government, they found out this issue, and they immediately transferred these young boys to our transit home, Shaktighar. And during first few days only, these young boys, they shared how they disliked how foreign volunteers used to come and sleep in their rooms, how they felt discomfort of having these young volunteers sleeping in the same room and doing video chats the whole night. And these young boys, they shared that they had to cook for themselves. There were not enough food in the orphanage, and how they survived for more than a month of time when finally government came in and intervened and rescued these young boys. So right now they are safe in our transit home. Our team have already found and traced their families, connecting with the local ward officials, and they are they have been reconnected with their families via video calls where possible, and phone calls, majorly phone calls. And then after 1 month of time, there was another a rescue alert from the Nepal government, requesting us, because there are very handful of organizations who works alongside Nepal government on family reintegration and to prevent family separation. So here in another rescue, we came to know about 11 young girls, very young little girls who were who were in an orphanage, and all these 11 young girls, 80% of them, they have their families. They have their mother, father, their brothers and sisters back in Humla, Jajarkot, and these districts which I'm naming right now with you all and sharing with you all. Even for me as a Nepali, it's a dream to go to these mountainous, far remote districts, and very geographically challenged areas, And these young little children, they were brought to the city orphanages for the sake of education and better lives. We found that the families had paid money to the orphanage owner, um, and they were given this false promises of providing them education till their grade 10, and they will be a doctor or a teacher, and they will return to their families. And during this time, these young 11 girls, they were asked not to connect with their families, so that they can adjust in Kathmandu city. So even they wanted to call and connect with their families, they were denied to make these phone calls, and they were traumatized there, and they were threatened not to say anything to any visitor who comes by. And this orphanage owner, she used to raise funds, showing the pictures of these 11 young girls and saying, I'm the mother of these 11 young girls and they have nobody and I'm taking care of them. So thankfully that the government came and did this rescue. The orphanage director, she is undergoing a court case right now. We can't share you more in detail because it's very confidential information are there. But what we know right now is all 11 young girls, they are feeling safe in our transit care, and they are telling the whole stories. Initially they were just very very angry with us, why did you bring us here? But after getting counseling, after being involved in various activities by our counselor and transit care in charge and our integration officers work, now these children have started giving evidences, telling the statements about how they were forced to present themselves, introduce themselves as an orphan. And I'm really happy that how these young girls have courageously they have come up, they have come forward, and even they are ready to talk to the government officials. So the faith, the trust of our work to the Nepal government, and also the families who we are working with, they are understanding the value and importance of being together. They understand that children thrive better only in families and in their communities. So that is our work right now, which we are doing. And I really take so much of pride in the team. Despite the lockdown situation, they are managing, they are taking the risk to visit these children and provide necessary counseling where needed. So right now they are engaged in art and craft. They are dancing. They are putting mehendis in their hands, and they are happy right now in transit care. They Out of 11, 9 girls, they have been reconnected with their families. Even though there is influence from the orphanage director initially, but now the families gradually understanding, and they are asking when there is domestic flights, please send our children back to us. So that is their request to us, which we will see how it goes in the coming days. Thank you, Andrea.
Fantastic. Thanks for that update. It's always good to hear finally that when children do come to our care and they feel safer, they can open up with professional care and counsel and tell their own story. So we don't have to put words in their mouth or guess what's happened to them. They can tell their own story. And when they put their own lives together, we are able to reach their families and work from there. So it's very good. It's really good news that we've been able to support so many children during this immediate care time. And but we must be vigilant moving forward, as we know, like post-earthquake and things, as hardship lifts, people are looking for solutions out, and they become vulnerable to traffickers and to opportunities to place their children in orphanages. That's where our hard work kicks in, and all of the work we've done so far with government to keep those children safe. Thanks for sharing. Did I see Diptesh jump online there? He's on? Gone again. He's gone again. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to hear from Diptesh. He's been buzzing in and out there. Looks like he's back. Let's see if we can connect to Diptesh. How are you going, Diptesh? Are you there? His smiling face looks happy.
Hello.
Hello, Diptesh. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Like, am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you are, sir. How are you?
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. Like, thanks for asking. Like, I don't know, but today is let me cover this quickly. Actually, like, my network is quite funny today, and
sure.
I don't know for how long I'll be connected to this.
No problem.
So yeah, like, I apologize. Accept my apologies if I get disconnected. Yeah, Andy, come on, continue.
Yeah, no
and
problem.
I missed past communication. I just logged in.
Yeah, that's okay. We talked a little bit about with the group tonight about looking to see how we can support the elderly and nursing mothers and so forth through the next stages of COVID-19, and an update maybe on the work that's ongoing with feeding and the community kitchen so far. If you could just recap some of those words, Diptesh.
Yeah, sure. So currently we are running 3 community kitchens. 2 community kitchen is serving a population of 2,800 people around in Kalyanpuri area, and 1 community kitchen is feeding Rajghat area, where we have 800 families and around 4,000 people in an average. These community kitchen are not sufficient to feed each and every one, so we are working on a strategy of spotting people who are in need, and especially the daily wagers who have lost their jobs. And majority of people whom we are feeding right now out of our projects are either rickshaw pullers or rag pickers, because they totally lost their job. Less people on road, less market is active, so less rubbish is there, so they are not earning any money, and they are dependent on 3-time meals. So we are working, though in our like limited capacity, so we have partnered with couple of gurudwaras, some other NGOs, and a church recently, this Sunday, yesterday, like for Kalyanpuri area. The church is feeding them from their budget, like on Sunday. Gurudwara is feeding them 3 days in a week. The rest we are trying to bridge the gap, like wherever they lack, we are trying to feed in. And rest, our team, our staff, volunteers, they are involved on the ground. They are going and meeting every possible person, visiting their kitchens, jotting down the stock of ration they have to eat, and their health status in general, because not everyone is a COVID victim. Like rest of the people are also, because of lack of food or nervousness or whatever, we are observing that another kind of disease or fear is coming up. People does not know like what is happening, how long they will be surviving. So they need like huge counseling become one of our biggest parts. So that we are doing, including myself, sitting on a distance. I'm not at a project location, but I am available with my phones to the project people, along with 3 other board members. And yeah, like any other question, Andy, like so that in my limited time span I can answer like majority of answers.
Mm. No, that's
Somehow I
okay.
got like oxygen to my internet. Yeah. So I want to be very specific. Yeah.
Look, it's interesting what you say about the epidemic of fear creeping in. I think that's true for a lot of people, and that's something that is very hard to endure long term. For a month or two is okay, maybe even 3 months or 4 months is okay, but when it's going on and on and on, and there's no real light at the end of the tunnel except a continual increase in the COVID numbers, I understand that must be very, very difficult. And people
Absolutely.
with little holding on to that is difficult. So it's commendable what you're achieving there. And
Yeah,
we'll be
well,
doing
like based on as yeah, as you mentioned, like based on the stats and database, I heard like Anju like a little for a few minutes. I understood like the datas are actually like number of people is like just crazy, and we basically here in India, like we stopped now even thinking or thinking based on database, because we find almost every second person in Delhi like a COVID victim. So like after doing our recent like mega COVID campaign, we understood that not everyone is a COVID patient, at least in our project suburb. And so what we are trying to tell them is not to leave the community unnecessarily, though it is unlock going on, everything is normal, shopping malls even are like open in Delhi. India also has like upcoming festivals like Dashera, like Diwali, etc. So all the shops are people like who just lost their jobs. They actually want to go back to the market, and they
Well, that looks like the end of Diptesh's chime in for the moment. So as you can hear, it's not easy work, and it's surprising to hear that, as Andrew mentioned earlier before we jumped online, it seems the government has just said it's time to open up the economy, and the economy is getting the precedent over health, because the health has become such a massive issue. It's impossible to kind of monitor and maintain. Although they keep on going with COVID testing, that's just proving more data. The reality is people want to get back to life and cope as best they can. So it's not an awesome situation by any means, but our best work will be trying to deliver care and food for those that we can care for and keep them safe, with the idea of getting the children of those people back to school and occupied once again in their learning, so that COVID-19 doesn't become the biggest impact that stopped them from getting their numeracy and literacy under their belts to move forward in their life. So we're working very hard with Diptesh, trying to raise some funds to keep those programs alive and well. We generally run a large fundraiser for India with our Cycle for Brighter Futures, where we take groups of Australians to ride their bike 250 kilometres through the beautiful streets of Kerala every year. And that fundraiser raises the money that runs Diptesh's program annually. But of course, in 2020, we haven't been able to use our cycle. So we're trying to raise funds through awareness and small ad hoc campaigns to try and keep some of those funds flowing to Diptesh to keep that work going, because we see it's so vital. Keeping people alive, what could be more worthy, you know? Keeping people free from that daily suffering. That's really our key focus. We've looked at our mission, we've looked at our vision, and it fits completely in there. We want to ease people's daily suffering and try and keep them as safe as we can. Ultimately, being a humanitarian organisation, that's what we're going to aim to do. So when we come back to you, no doubt there'll be a RISE number 4. We're going to hopefully be in a position in the next month or so to be talking about some stronger pathways coming through. What have we learned so far? And how do we shape ourselves as an organisation moving forward? How do we generate fundraising campaigns that will help people understand our work and find value so that they may contribute? And again, bring you stories of the impacts on the ground of the work that we're doing. So hopefully we'll have Patrick from Uganda with us next time, and he can share some of the work there. We've also in Uganda been handing out a small seed bank for families so that they can start planting and start to become a little more self-sustaining in their food. The ground on Uganda is very fertile. You just have to pop a seed in and anything will grow next to your front door. So, and Ugandans are very tenacious like that. They'll utilise every piece of ground to grow. So small seed banks have been given as a sustainable measure so far, as well as books and study opportunities for students as we go through. We'll bring you more of our Uganda program next time on RISE. I'll just check, was there any questions anyone had on offer tonight, Em?
No one has said any, but they can put their hand up.
So if we haven't got any typed questions, but if anyone has any questions they'd like to offer, please just put your hand up. I can see everybody there. I know that it's not easy having Zoom meetings and feeling like you're in a room with people, but we're very happy to bring these chats to everybody, to share the stories, to let everybody know what we're doing here in Australia, and to bring you live those stories from Nepal. Joe, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask at this time? I know that you sent one or two through in your RSVP to tonight's event. Is there anything that you'd like to add? That's great to see you, by the way.
Yeah, good to see you. Hi, everyone. So I suppose my first question is, you know, with the kind of in-person events obviously not available as an option for Forget Me Not, just you know, social media or kind of crowdfunding options that might have been explored. Has there been any discussion around virtual fundraising at this point, and any plans for campaigns on that front?
So we've talked a lot internally about what's our best effort. I mean, that's what everybody's trying to do. Of course, a lot of people who run events are in the same situation as us. One thing we've been looking toward is private philanthropy and larger grant opportunities, where people have been offering their annual grant more focused in a COVID response. So we've been hunting up some of those and put in some applications for that kind of funding. But again, you're in a large pool swimming around with a lot of organisations. How do you stand out from the crowd? Hopefully our story and our need hits those philanthropists, and they can see the need on the ground and will choose our organisation. We have had a donor that's put forward $20,000 in matching capacity. So since the start of September through till mid-October, and probably a little bit beyond actually, he has said that at a cap at $20,000 he will match as a matching grant. So if you offer $10 to Forget Me Not, it becomes 20, which is very nice for some people who want to give even small amounts of money. Can be doubled with that offer. It's a very generous offer. And it's that kind of opportunity. Beg your pardon? Oh yes, that kind of opportunity that helps generate funds. And then, you know, One of the main online campaigns we're running right now is through one of our very well connected organisations called Wine Direct. It's a company that sells wine. So in the lead up to Christmas, they've offered $50 donations for wine packages sold directly with a particular link, which will help us generate some of those funds directly. Most people buy in Australia wine and alcohol for Christmas times. Who knows what Christmas will look like here. But that's been a campaign that people seem to be taking up, and we'll continue to push that through social media. The best way we've ever fundraised is to tell stories, as you know, Joe, and we'll continue to try and bring those stories carefully and within, policy guidelines, bringing those stories of children and their reconnections, which seems to inspire people to support our work. And of course, the phone continues to ring here at HQ. We continue to talk to people one-on-one about how they can help. We have had several people during the lockdown have had milestone birthdays, for example, those decade birthdays where they haven't been able to have those expensive parties that Australians tend to throw on 30s and 40s and 50, 60-year-old birthdays. And people have generated some funds for their birthday for us, and we're very grateful for that. I just had a phone call today with someone who has generated their 60th birthday takings towards Forget Me Not. So, and we'll be focusing that money directly towards our India project. So that's really how we're going with our fundraising. It's slow going, as I said, everyone's in the same boat. But I did listen to a webinar at the very start of this whole process, and the professional opinion from the fundraising sector is, whatever it might seem difficult to ask, we should still ask and offer our organisation up for donations, because some people feel like this is their personal response to COVID-19. How they're responding is through supporting people through Forget Me Not, how we support people abroad. So we're very grateful for the funds that have come, and we'll continue to work very hard to generate those funds. But I know that you've always got your fundraising hat on. You've had a finger in many, many pies over the years. So if you have any thoughts, we're always open to opportunity to discuss how that might look. Thank you.
I can imagine it's getting harder. You know, the traditional fundraising methods are really, a struggle to get off the ground these days, I'm sure. So yeah, I mean, probably, and a lot of people are under financial pressure, they've lost jobs, and so it's harder for people to give decent amounts. But yeah, I don't know, just the crowdfunding, like quite a tactical, crowdfunding campaign, depends whether you're just looking. Are you just looking at really life-saving measures for the India project at the moment, or are you looking across Uganda and Nepal too, like doing a broader campaign around COVID, or just? Project, isn't it? But
yeah, well, right now we have our donors that donate directly to all of our projects specifically, but because our cycle has been the biggest loss of our major budget holder for India, that's the thing we're trying to support at best now. Diptesh has mentioned some of the numbers that we're trying to support. I can't say that we'll generate enough money to hold that whole budget over again, but we'll certainly do our best to target those needs. And that will be through various campaigns, through Wine Direct and through a few other things that will develop between now and Christmas time. But I also listened to something today that said, how do you get lucky in a fundraising campaign? You don't, you just keep trying. So if you have 70 successful fundraising campaigns, it's because you've been lucky 70 different times. No one thing will get you over the line. It's just how people feel inspired. And we continue to show our transparency and show how people can trust us out there in the landscape. And hopefully people feel moved by our work, and will continue to contribute. That's our main thing. We'll stick with what we are and what we know, and continue to put that forward to the Australian public.
Great. I mean, the thing I just picked up when Dippy was talking that I thought could be a good campaign title is Bridge the Gap, because that's the key need in India is, life-saving kind of solutions, I suppose, on the ground around the elderly, and infant nutrition, and even kind of quarantine support for the elderly and things like that. So, traditional crowdfunding, I don't have a lot of, in fact, any really experience in crowdfunding, but it's normally, for a donation, you get a kind of a perk reward. But in the current climate, the perk reward could potentially be that, you provide infant nutrition to a mother for a month, or, you you know, you have a food pack to a family that misses out on the government support or something. So there could be kind of rewards that are gifted almost to the people in crisis in India. So,
yes,
you know,
yes,
there's
certainly.
a few of those
Crowdfunding has
platforms.
some really fantastic features for sure. I like that idea of Bridge the Gap. That sounds like a fantastic campaign. Maybe we can nut out some conversations around that moving forward from here. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for your conversation and for your input. I see that Pete has a question. Did you have a question, Pete, you want to share? Pete might be on mute.
Unmute.
There you go. Oh. Can you unmute yourself, Pete?
How's that? Speaking, testing, 1, 2, beauty. Okay.
Thank you.
It's just great to see all the faces and a few that we haven't seen for a while. Andy, you've nailed it as usual, you and Em, but all we can just say is there's some ears, you know, we're listening. Everyone's going through some unprecedented times. Yes, we're very lucky in Australia, we can't deny it, and certainly in Queensland. Where the future going, none of us know, but yeah, we'll continue to listen and do what we can, and tomorrow's another day. But I just thank you all for being here and your participation, and of course to our great CEO and supporters.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for your support as ever. So with that, we're coming close to the end of our time now. Thanks particularly to Andrew for sharing all of the work tonight. Diptesh for popping in and out. He's not here now, but we'll shoot him a message. He'll feel pretty bad about that, I suppose, but it's always tricky working with technology. And of course, we'll try and get Patrick on the line for our next Rise 3. If you've enjoyed the conversation tonight, we've been very happy to chat with you. We'd love you to join us again for Rise number 4, an hour out of your evening. It's great to share some of our stories and see some new faces on board tonight. But if you've got anything you'd like to say or share or a message, please jump on our Facebook page, shoot us a message. We're very available and always happy to hear people's ideas or even just feedback generally about our work. So we thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks, Joe, for your words tonight as well, and Pete. And for all of your familiar and beautiful faces for joining in. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for Rise number 4. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.